ArtSpark Texas presents a community conversation about our upcoming Inclusive Dance Conference. The purpose of this gathering is to reinforce that quality dance instruction comes through learning how to make a dance practice and space accessible. Your quality of instruction and support will improve if you are taught how to center accessibility or support those who center accessibility. We use disability justice as a lens through which to critique, unpack, and reform dance practices and pedagogy. In this time in history, our creative and pedagogical practices cannot exist in a vacuum, and it is imperative that inclusion be the foundation for the work and not the end goal. Quote by Eric Coopers, "There will always be room to grow and deepen the accessibility of our offerings, and so we welcome feedback, discussion, and opportunities for deep listening. We will make lots of mistakes along the way, but we are committed to heading with consistency and humility in the direction of full inclusiveness."
All right, well, I'm going to get us started. Hi, everybody. Greetings and all that. Thanks for joining us. And I wanted to introduce myself. Well, first off, this is Community Conversations with ArtSpark Texas. My name is Susan Slattery, and I'm the Outreach Director or Director of Outreach with ArtSpark Texas. And I'll give you a little description of myself: blonde, middle-aged woman with red glasses, wearing a blue dress, and a big smile for everybody. And I am going to be introducing you to Lindsay Winters, who is our ArtSpark Communications Assistant, newest member of the ArtSpark team. And she's going to be kind of directing and leading our discussion tonight with our plans for a dance. I guess it's not a workshop, but I guess it's a why am I struggling with this word?
A conference, maybe.
Yes, thank you. All right. And I guess at this point, I'm going to ask everybody to mute themselves, and then except for Lindsay, and then you can unmute as needed. So thank you, and go, Lindsay.
All right. Thank you for that introduction, Susan. I am Lindsay Winters, the communication assistant as at ArtSpark Texas. As Susan mentioned, I am a white female in my mid-20s. I have long, light brown hair. I have silver framed glasses, aviator style, because I think they make me look tough and smart. I have a light green shirt on. And I have a big smile on my face because I am very excited to be here today. I would also like to introduce the rest of my team. Tanya Winters is the artistic director. Lynn Osgood is the executive director of civic arts. Aubrey Donish, the special project coordinator, and Sharon Ploger, the ASL interpreter. I would like to take this time to go around so everyone can introduce themselves and also give a brief image description as well. So we'll start with Tanya.
Thank you, Lindsay. Hi, my name is Tanya Winters. I'm the artistic director of ArtSpark Texas Dance, and I am a white middle-aged female with short blonde hair and thick-rimmed, brand new glasses that are shaped like cat's eyes, and I am so excited about them because I think they look fabulous on me. I'm wearing a black t-shirt and jeans. I also have a black and gray sleeve tattoo that includes many things, but I would say a dragon, an owl, a tiger, and a hummingbird.
All right, thank you, Tanya. We will move on to Lynn Osgood.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lynn Osgood. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit called Civic Arts in Austin, Texas. I am a middle-aged white woman with medium-length brown hair, sitting in a warm but very middle-aged tan cardigan, sitting in front of an image of mosaicked angels, Ethiopian mosaic angels that is also the picture that sits on my desktop, and each of the angels holds one of my project folders.
All right, thank you, Lynn. We'll head over to Aubrey now.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Donish. I am the special project coordinator for ArtSpark. Can everyone hear me all right? I have weird speakers. I see nods and thumbs up. Awesome. So I'm the special project coordinator. I am a white woman with curly brown hair that right now looks like a ball of yarn has kind of exploded. And I'm wearing a blue sweater with a hood, and my hands are a little shaky right now. And I'm also very excited to be here. And I do have a question for Lindsay. Is everyone who is also here for listening and watching the workshop, are they also introducing themselves, or is it just the team right now?
Just the team right now.
Okay, cool. And I also just want to say it's lovely to have people who have been involved in the project here as well, either on or off screen. I'm very happy to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
All right, thank you, Aubrey. And Sharon, if you'd like to introduce yourself as well.
Hi, I'm Sharon Plager. I'll be the interpreter for this evening. And I am a white female with straight brown hair, no beautiful glasses.
All right, thank you, Sharon. So as Susan mentioned, we're all gathered here today to discuss this gathering with a focus on dance and disability education, which should be happening in spring of 2023 with a goal in mind to bring together inclusive and advocates for inclusivity who both have an interest in inclusive dance and disability education. And also, before I get started, it's important for me to mention that Silva Lukanen, the director of integrated dance at ArtSpark Texas, could not join us here today because she is in Finland, which is about 8 hours ahead of us right now. So although she's not present, I do want to reassure you that she's definitely an anchor of this project. So 3 of us are here from the unceded land of the Tonkawa people in Austin, Texas, and Aubrey is videoing in from the unceded land of the Dakota people in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We honor these ancestral grounds and celebrate the resilience and strength that all Indigenous people have shown worldwide. We'd like to offer you all a chance to participate in this land acknowledgement. In the chat, we'll put a phone number, and with this phone number, you can text your zip code to the number, and then you'll receive a reply that denotes whose land you are on. And if you get that response, feel free to put it in the chat. All right, and before we get started, I think it's very important for us to offer our foundational approach to this, and what's more important than getting a full understanding of ArtSpark dance and the roots of it. So I want to pass this off to Tanya, where she can share the history and evolution of ArtSpark dance.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, ArtSpark Texas Dance was born from a theater group called Actual Lives Austin, which is another program of ArtSpark, and a little bit of help from the Bee Gees, actually. Lindsay, if you'll show the first photo, please. Okay, so in this photo, we see a large group of people all sitting shoulder to shoulder. Some people are sitting, some people are standing, and each person has their left arm extended out, reaching to the sky. And we see this banner behind called The Days of Our Lives. And this is the show where Allison Orr, who is the artistic director of Forklift Dance Works, came to work with us and actually choreographed a group dance. And she used the Bee Gees as her song. So this is where we met her. And in particular, this was really my start in dance. I had written a piece called Dancing Queen that talked about my love of dance and how I love to dance on my knees, but that I had a surgery that prevented me from getting on the floor anymore because my doctors didn't like the way that I sat on the floor. So Celia, who's the executive director of ArtSpark, asked me to read this to Allison, and I read it to her, and she said, well, I don't think this is just a monologue. I think this is a dance. And I said, dance? Didn't you just hear that I haven't been on the floor in 15 years? How am I going to dance this through? So she convinced me to meet her, and we choreographed a dance together. And I performed that dance several times. But as I was doing that, several other people who also were interested in dance we kind of all formed this group, and we called this group Body Shift. And in the beginning, it was just a few classes and primarily an intensive workshop. And for those of you who may not know what an intensive is, it's where we invite different dancers and choreographers to come work with us for 1 or 2 days. So Lindsay, if you'll show the second photo. So in this photo, we have a woman who is sitting on her knees on a wheelchair. She is hugging the back of the wheelchair. We have another woman who is reaching underneath the wheelchair, and a third woman who is pushing the chair from the front. And I think that's actually me. But behind, you'll see we've got several other dancers dancing behind. So we kept along with the intensives for a while, and that was kind of our main focus, was to do an intensive every year. We've worked with many different choreographers, but in 2013, 2012, 2013, we really started to branch out into public performance. So Lindsay, if you show the third photo. So this photo is actually from a piece that we did called Cripping the Streets. And in the photo, we see two women who are walking side by side, cheek to cheek, and they're crossing a crosswalk. They've got their arm extended and they're holding on to a white cane as they cross the street. And behind them are 3 dancers crawling on their knees, and one gentleman who is walking across the crosswalk We have a red car that looks like it's about to turn into the intersection. So we added the public performance element and continued with our intensives. And in 2015, we invited Alito Alessi from Joint Forces Dance Company to come teach us danceability, which is a method of teaching dance. So after we worked with him, we really started to switch into the dance education elements, where we actually started offering our elements classes and our foundations classes, where we were actually teaching and doing more education. And so that's where kind of we started. We have Art Spark Texas Dance, which is more of the classes and dance education. And then we still do have Body Shift, but Body Shift is more the artistic arm of Art Spark Dance and more of the performance group. So that's kind of the history.
All right, thank you, Tanya. So what Tanya described was this growing community of inclusivity in the dance community. And that's something that Silva has been wanting to grow nationwide as well, which is what is sparking the conference. So I want to talk a little bit about the beginning of this project and how I myself was introduced to it as well. So I started off at Art Spark Texas as an intern, and Silva and I just kind of we gravitated towards each other. And we started working on this project together. Silva had already set the foundation. She had written a grant and had it all laid out. But what we needed to do was like set the plans. We needed to find a place to start. And the place to start was research. We needed to do research to see, we needed to gather attitudes. We needed to see what was holding back from inclusivity. Why can't we have an inclusive dance community? So we started setting goals and doing small things. I started making a little questionnaire, but we decided we need one more person. Like we need someone from the dance community, because my background isn't dance. So Silva said, hey, someone asked, can I define inclusivity? What inclusivity entails in this context? Yes, thank you, Sonia. So inclusivity in this context means all abilities, dancers of all abilities, all backgrounds, people who dancers of all abilities. I hope that is a definition that you will accept. But we decided that we needed to bring Aubrey in to kind of help with more dancing background. So Aubrey, if you wanted to join in here and talk about your experience with this project as well.
This is Aubrey speaking. Thank you, Lindsay. And I will jump off of Sonia's question of defining inclusivity. And I think, Lindsay, you really demonstrated really well sort of the struggle that we've all come up against in this research, which is defining inclusivity, defining integrated, defining all of these terms that different people use in all of their different contexts. And something that we knew going into this research, and something that is continually being reinforced and discussed in these different ways, is disability itself in the construct as it is, and as we know it, is so much broader than what, say, you learn in school, or you learn in a studio, or you learn, reading how to have an inclusive class, you know? And I really appreciate that question because it continues to force me to sit down to say, what do I mean when I say dance and disability or disability education or all of those things? So I really appreciate that question. So yeah, so that's kind of where we're at, if that gives you any context of how we can come into this. And so the research part, right? That's why we have Lynn. I was really lucky that Silva asked me to be like, hey, like, who do you know? What are you doing? Can you help us to figure out a sort of structure and an approach to going deeper? And then, like, what even is a conference, right? What does it mean to bring this group of people together who are often competing against barriers of like money? Like, how do you get somewhere? How do you travel somewhere? How do you stay in a hotel? All of these questions, not just for like a conference or gathering focused on dance and disability, but should be asked in any situation when people are trying to bring a group together. So that's kind of where we're at. And Silva was like, I don't know how to do research. And Lindsay and I were like, you know, we've been in school for a hot second, but it would be great to have a professional do this research and work with us. And then, I also just want to draw attention to the chat where Douglas, you've added dancers of all disabilities and abilities to your definition as well. So I want to transition over to the research genius, Lynn Osgood, who has really created a foundation for us to explore where the dance community is at today. Where the community of dance and disability, physically integrated dance, and I'm using air quotes around some of these definitions as they are used in some places and not others, or all abilities dance. And so we've been asking folks who have been what we might say are pioneers. We've been talking to folks who are currently in academia and who are advocates. We've been speaking to artistic directors and professional dancers and just really trying to get into the pockets of the dance field today. So I'm going to turn it over to Lynn to give her airtight research spiel, as I've written in the notes, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Aubrey, and hello, everyone. This is Lynn Osgood speaking. So yeah, I'm a researcher in the arts, and I'm actually also an urban planner. I work to bring those two things together because I deeply believe that artists are essential for the community development process, that we can't actually make our communities better until artists and arts organizations are at the table. So I've had the pleasure and honor of working with many artists over the years, including Allison Orr. So I loved the origin story. Any origin story that starts with the Bee Gees is awesome. And so one of the projects, the other type, so I'm a qualitative researcher. So one example of another research project was with Forklift Dance Works, where we had funding from the National Endowment for the Arts to see how their 3-year sequence of dances that they did around Austin's municipal pool system actually helped contribute to civic conversations. So it was great. So I got to follow them around like a puppy dog for 3 years, and that was wonderful. And lo and behold, what we found for the research is that they very much did contribute to the civic conversation because of the experiences that everyone went through. They were actually better able to be at the table for those difficult conversations around budgets and everything that's involved in municipal decision making. So that's the kind of world that I come from. And so for this project, it has been just a deep honor and wonderful talking with people who care so much about these questions that are so complicated. What is inclusivity? What is disability? What does it mean? But fundamentally, I think what we've seen, as Aubrey was laying out, many, many different people touching on something that everyone cares about. And essentially what that is, when you get lots of people standing around in a circle, carrying and throwing their love forward into a certain centeredness, that is in many ways a community. And it's a community that may not be the most fluid communities, may be complicated and layered communities, but it is a community that gathers around a central purpose. And so what we've been doing is deep listening all around that circle with essential questions of how are you understanding this community in this moment in time? And if we could and we will be able to gather in the future, how is it that future gathering could potentially help all the things that everyone loves, the potential for everyone to be present and to dance? How can that gathering help move that needle forward? Because we know that there is wisdom all around that circle and that everyone brings different wisdom to that question. So what we've been doing is doing lots of different interviews. And then from a research standpoint, what we do is we take those interviews and we transcribe them. And then we put them into, it's a qualitative coding software, it's called, where we actually go through and it's like pulling out like 100 different colored markers and doing lots of different color coding and themes and trying to find like, what is it? What are the themes that people are talking about? And what we'll do is we'll gather those themes and present them back out to the community and say, this is what we heard. And so from here, it gives us some ideas about how we could gather. Let's start from there and see what we can come up with, and then we'll go the next step. So ultimately, good research is really it's about deep listening, and it's about a conversation. It's never about just pulling information in. It is about gathering information, but then bringing that back and saying, did we get it right? And so we'll be going through that in a couple different rounds. And so what we wanted to do today was actually bring some of that conversation forward for everyone here in the room. And I was going to start with a question to Aubrey. And Aubrey, asking you, so Aubrey and I have been doing all of these different conversations and thinking about this idea of gathering. And now in this space right here in this webinar, we can bring our conversation to that as a group towards that question. And one of the fundamental questions we've been asking people, and so Aubrey, I'll ask you, in sort of reflecting upon what you've heard from folks and your own feelings, if you were to attend this conference or this gathering, what are 3 things that you would want to feel during the gathering?
All right, this is Aubrey speaking. Being asked this question is really a lot because I get flashes of things that I've heard other people say that we've spoken to that I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I want to feel that. And then also really thinking about myself and my own lived experience and what I want to feel as well. And I think, so we're all here right now and we're all ready to do something, to like listen to each other or to have a tangible thing or create a piece or make a change. Like we're all ready. And after this conference takes place or during this conference, I want to feel a different sort of like readiness. Like we've done the deep listening, we've taken steps, we've probably muddled through a lot of feelings, taking into account like the past 2 years and also where we are now. And I would like to feel ready in a different way that I feel ready right now. And that's one big feeling. And I think that comes from like what we've heard so far about wanting to build a sense of community, like people are ready to either rebuild or build community with all of these intentions in mind, intentions of intersectionality, intentions of like a hybrid video conference, intentions of like what topics people want to be addressed and who we should be listening to. And like the conference or the gathering that we create isn't going to exist in a vacuum. And, you know, we want to build community off of those challenges. So I've heard a lot about wanting community, wanting intention, and then also wanting to come away feeling challenged. And I think feeling challenged in so many different ways, like something that, you know, I haven't experienced before, or challenged in a way of thinking that maybe I've been holding on to for a really long time, or just challenges of the environment around me and where the world is. That's, I think, some feelings that I definitely agree with and feelings that I hope for. So once again, those three are to feel a sense of community, to feel challenged, and to feel ready. Those are my three feelings.
Lynn speaking, thank you. And I love the way that you describe that you're ready now, but you want to be ready in a different way. And you can feel that. It's like, yeah, like what would that be? I think that's what we're trying to imagine. What would that experience be to get you from a place of being ready now, but maybe ready in an even different way? Thank you. Tanya or Lindsay, I'm wondering what you would want as feeling, and then opening it up to the room. Tanya, what are three feelings you would like to have while at the gathering? Oh, and you're in mute, my dear.
My cat was starting to talk, so I didn't want you to hear her voice. Anyway, that's a difficult question for me, but ultimately, I want to feel like I belong. That my disability is invisible. And I also want to feel like I'm a part of something. That after this gathering, after we meet, that we're all going to go out and we're going to do something with the knowledge that we have, and take it to the next level. And thirdly, this might be simple, but I want to feel happy. I want to smile throughout the whole conference. I really want to feel happy energy, and I want to, feel the energy behind all these minds coming together.
Thank you. Lynn speaking. Yeah, thank you, Tanya. And I appreciate, because we've heard those things, that idea of joy, that as a community, like, yes, challenging, but also joy. And what does that mean? And then this idea of whatever happens in the conference, it has to extend afterwards, and thinking, what does that mean in terms of like material products that are produced, knowledge that's produced, and still wrestling with that. Thank you. Lindsay, how about you?
This is a very challenging question to answer. But ultimately, I would want to feel safe, safe to be who I am, safe to share my thoughts, just safe to interact with others and not feel judged for who I am. I would also want to feel unified, to piggyback off of what Tanya said. Just a sense of sharing an experience with someone would be so beautiful. So having this knowledge and this unifying experience with everyone as well would be wonderful. And I would also want to feel empowered. I would want to feel like I could cause change. I would want to feel like I am important. And I think those three things would be very beautiful to have all at the same time.
Thank you, Lindsay. Lynn speaking. Would love to open it up for the group and see, like, do these ideas of joy and empowerment, is that the kind of thing that you challenge that you would want to be feeling? If we're all able to gather in some way or another, either digitally or in person, and maybe in one place, maybe in different places, what is it that you would want to be experiencing there at the gathering? If there's any additional thoughts, we invite them.
I can share. My name's Eric. I'm a middle-aged white man, brown short hair, beard, mustache, big headphones, purple sweatshirt. To my right is one of my dogs, little white dog on the couch. I'm a professor of dance and inclusive performance at Cal State East Bay in Northern California, and I would like to feel a sense of being nourished spiritually and pedagogically, and in terms of my activist self, and a sense that making real change is doable, and that I'm connected with a lot of other people making that happen, and we're right where we need to be, and that I have a clear sense of what the next steps are.
Thank you, Eric. Lynn speaking. I love that idea of nourished. You know, what are the waters that flow through? And I think what we're understanding is, as we talk about this as a core team, is how much that essential nourishing, and the conference itself can't live just in its own little bubble, that there is how we approach the gathering, how we be in the gathering when we're there, and how we leave, and how we continue what it is that happens within the gathering. So I love that idea of nourishment, because I think it brings in this idea of waters, and thank you. Other things that you would love to feel just from the group? Yeah, Aubrey.
This is Aubrey speaking. As people are either typing into the chat or getting their thoughts gathered, maybe to speak, I also sparked something for me, which is, in our conversations, a lot of people have used the phrase a hunger for something, and something personal or something in the group. And I don't know if that is a more sort of like deep prompt, but what do you hunger for could also be another way to ask, like, what do you want to feel? Like, what do you hunger for going into and coming out of this? And if you don't have an answer, that's just, I feel like, something that I like to sit with, that phrasing a lot.
Thank you, Aubrey. I love that phrasing. That's perfect. Sonia, I see you have your hand up.
Hi all, yes, this is Sonia speaking. My camera is off today, but my icon is the Dance for All Bodies logo. It's an orange circle with a dancing stick figure in the center that sort of looks like a creamsicle, creamsicle-esque, if you will. I would like my disability and the disabilities of other folks honored and seen. Some other folks said they want their disability to be invisible, but I personally don't want that experience. And I think like some disability specific conversations would be good, because as I think Douglas pointed out in the chat, some of that specificity of lived experience can be lost when we're all lumped together. That's the end of my thought.
Thank you, Sonia. Lynn speaking. Yeah, so the how do we hold witness on so many levels, that witness to the specificity of people's experience, what it is that brings everyone together, and how it is that everyone stands in their individual experience around in that circle. I think are things that we've also been as we've been talking with people across these different sectors, the way that they either as educators or artists or supporters, talking about that, where and how do we focus, and how do we hold up and witness, both for ourselves and for people and the larger community afterwards. So thank you, Sonia. I think that's important. And Douglas, I see you offering something in the chat there about exploring difficult questions around community dance versus concert dance. Yes, and again, hard, how do we talk about these? How do we name them? I think we all struggle to find just the right word. And I wanted to invite you, if you would like to say anything about those particular thoughts. We do hear that tension, absolutely, through so many of the interviews, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, if you're available. Chat is fine too. Okay. Douglas says, sorry, eating. That's no problem. Okay, so oh, Vanessa, yeah, please.
Hello, my name is Vanessa Cruz, pronouns she, her, hers. My image description, I'm a Mexican-American woman. I currently have dark lipstick on. I'm wearing a black spiderweb crop top shirt. I have glasses that have black rims around them with studs on them on the sides. I'm in front of a white background with white blinds. Just a little brief intro of myself. I'm a physically disabled dancer, choreographer, filmmaker, and recent graduate from a dance program. This question is absolutely difficult. I'm sitting at the intersections of my identity, and I think one of the things that arises, and I don't know how to pinpoint it to one way I would want to feel, but I think one of the things, I want to feel liberation, and I want to expand just a little bit on that. And what I mean by that is seeing people who are in leadership in this conference be BIPOC, LGBTQIA to spirit plus. I think that is super important because I recognize my privilege. I am able to be in this meeting, but I do recognize that there are so many BIPOC disabled folks who aren't here and who don't have the capacity to be here because of all the other things that they're going through. So I think that's the number one thing I would want to feel is liberation in this kind of space. And I think this is such a wonderful platform to initiate that and start fresh in that way. Because I've been in so many other kinds of meetings that aren't necessarily representative of my own identities. And so it'd be nice to witness that in this conference and thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. I love that. And particularly just, thinking about how you pull it together is that point of inspiration, that point of light you hold forward. What does it mean to have that liberating experience? And how can you, which I think talks about tough conversations and moving through things together and being in and recognizing complexity, that in that sort of, as they say, like getting into the mud, because that's where the lotus flower grows from. So thank you. And I see Sonia also adds a note about reinforcing the importance of intersectional leadership and how critically important that is. Yes, very much so. So I think, how does that integrate throughout the entire process? Yeah, thank you. So I'd love to bring another question forward. And that is, and I'll start here, Tanya, to you. there are still many obstacles in the way, specifically for dance educators. How would you name those obstacles? And how in your imagination could this gathering help to address those? Not that that's not too big of a question.
I should have studied more before I got on this call. I think one of the biggest obstacles that I have seen, or that I have struggled with, I guess, is I don't know how to put this into words, but people, when we interact with disability, I think that there is a wall always, a black veil that comes down, and it's scary for people to go beyond that black curtain as to how to talk about disability, how to approach people who are disabled, what words to use, because nobody wants to offend, and so I think that is a big obstacle, and my cat agrees. The biggest obstacle that I have seen, or that I've even struggled with, not knowing how to approach another body, being afraid of using the wrong terminology. So that's an obstacle in my view. And that's really all I can think of right now.
Thank you, Tanya. Lynn speaking. No, I love that. And I love the cat chorus in the background too. she's saying, yes, that's it. But yeah, and how, as you were talking, I was thinking, I think what's astounded me, so I am not from the dance community, and in conversation with or the disability communities, and talking with everyone and seeing how much, even within the community itself, how hard language is, and how much people, even within the community, struggle out of love, and how much that people wish that wasn't that they could sort of trip right over that and get to the other side, and not being really sure how. So I think thank you, Tanya, because I think in the gathering, what will be essential is at a very minimum the acknowledgement of that, and maybe a word fest where we throw out all the wrong words just so we can get them out, and a stance of that this is a gathering in love and support, and the free, and acknowledging the needed freedom to be present to all that awkwardness which comes out of sensitivity and care.
If I could just add one more thing.
Yeah.
I think an obstacle, or a personal obstacle for me, is I'm struggling with my own identity as a disabled person. Even saying disabled dancer and putting that disabled first is new for me, because I'm so used to using people first language and advocating for disability in other contexts. So it's where we all are with our own identities as we come together. I would really like to explore that more.
Lynn speaking. Thank you, Tanya. Yeah, and I'd love to open it up to the group. Your thoughts on this idea. I'd like this very striking image of the black veil that Tanya was bringing up, and how critical it is to recognize that the presence of that in an educational environment. If folks are experiencing this as part of just being there in a space of learning, what does that mean? And I'm curious for other folks' thoughts on that, or the broader topic of obstacles in dance education.
I have my hand raised, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
No,
Lynn,
you're good.
Vanessa, I'm sorry. I didn't notice it there.
Oh,
Yes,
you're good.
please.
Yeah, so I recently graduated from Cal State Long Beach, an audition-based dance program. Some of the obstacles are very complicated, having to navigate a dance program that is ableist. I can't sugarcoat it in any way. Most of the faculty were very open to learning, I will say that. But there's just a lot of inherent ableism, even if it's unintentional. And that can be very damaging to disabled artists, even to get into an audition room. I think just to kind of list out some of the obstacles, I think, how do we get disabled dancers to audition to these dance programs? How are they auditioning these dancers? What standards? Should there be any standards when auditioning? Should there be even auditions? Another thing I think that I emphasized in one of the, when I was interviewing with you all, when you all interviewed me, is just, I think we need to address dismantling ableism in the dance education world, dance world. Because I think that should be one of the first steps, because even if we start discussing, in my opinion, like how to make dance inclusive and everything, we have to acknowledge that we all carry some kind of ableism in our biases and the way we interact with others. And that way we can open up the conversation and really learn about like why are we not unveiling that veil, right? And so because I held a dismantling ableism workshop with the faculty, and I learned this idea of like what Tanya was talking about, of that uncomfortability. Some of my professors did disclose that they were uncomfortable interacting with me, and I kind of wish I knew that, because I think that would have broken so many barriers that I was already facing, just trying to get the training as well as I wanted to. And yeah, those are my thoughts. I could expand more, but I'll let someone else speak. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn speaking. Yeah, thank you, Vanessa. And just that idea of how do, in the context of the gathering, like how do we as a group confront ableism, and where and how does that sit within the conversation? So thank you. Yeah, and Eric, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think this is kind of building on what Vanessa shared, that there's this is true about any kind of liberation work, that we're so it's such a complex web that we're stuck in our society, and all of us have been raised with so much conditioning around disability and beauty and body image and race and gender and all of that. And so even when we're completely dedicated to liberating ourselves and each other, the tools we have available are sort of often feel inseparable from the problem. And the image that keeps coming to me tonight is that we're all in this quicksand pit and we're trying to help each other up, but none of us really have anything to hold on to. And so sometimes we're able to lift someone up, but then someone else sinks. And so something around, I mean, I've been dedicated, my professorship has been around creating this inclusive dance program at Cal State East Bay, and I've been doing that for 15 years. And I still feel like every time I go in to teach, my training was so not inclusive, and I can come up with other ways of doing things but it's not natural because of all my habits and all my conditioning and all of that. So even those of us who really want to change things, we have so much, it can be so hard to see clearly.
Yeah, Lynn speaking. Thank you, Eric, and I appreciate the very real recognition of time, of how much conditioning we've all had to get to this moment, and how much conditioning we'll all walk with into the room and walk out with, and the generosity of to each other and ourselves in holding that. Thank you. Sonia, you had your hand up.
Yes, hi, this is Sonia speaking once again. I just want to take a moment and thank those who are sharing from personal experience, because that can be vulnerable and self-effacing. And also, I would love to explore in greater depth, like just and name the scarcity of training spaces for disabled dancers, because like there are questions about like how do we rebuild or change existing training spaces, but there also is like a fundamental fact that like not enough spaces exist. And then something that is then a result of that reality is once we do enter professional dance settings, specifically professional dance settings alongside non-disabled dancers, there's a disparity in the training that the disabled dancer and the non-disabled professional dancer have, and yet the expectation is the same, right? Or the title of professional dancer is carries the same weight often, whereas like one's path to professional dance is, in my experience, greatly impacted by the presence or the lack of disability. And like, what is that reconciliation? And what is that reconciliation in a professional space? And how much time does that reconciliation take? And thought.
Thank you, Sonia. Yeah, Lynn speaking. And I think you actually very gracefully started pointing us to a next question, which is about, what are the things that are in the way right now? And you were just pointing them out in terms of a lack of space and this idea of professionalism. What does it mean? And what does it, what, again, I think it pulls back to Eric's statement about all the expectations and the lived experiences which are not supportive of the dancers and the disabled dancers that are moving through and becoming the professional dancers that they are, but not held at large in that identity. Thinking of those things that need to change, and that you would hope maybe something by this gathering we could move the needle. If there was one thing that this gathering could move the needle on and change that would be possible after the conference or because of the conference, what would that one thing be? And Lindsay, I'll start with you and then open it up for our last couple of minutes together.
Yes, thank you. So this is a very tough question as well. But I personally am not part of the dance community. So I would prefer for someone else to have this opportunity to answer for me. I think that would be, I don't know, I think that insight would be a little bit more helpful than what I have to say. So if anyone would like
Very
to.
fair. Lynn speaking. Yeah. And so anyone here in the room, like, oh my gosh, if we could do, if we had one magic wand and this conference could either change something or plant the seed for changing something, what would be that one thing that you would have it change? Vanessa.
Hi, Vanessa speaking. There needs to be a bridge between dance training and professional work. They go hand in hand for non-disabled artists. And I really want to uplift Sonia's thought about this idea of like, how do we train disabled dancers for the professional world? Because one, there aren't a lot of integrated dance companies. Two, a lot of the integrated dance companies are looking for physically disabled dancers, not leaving room for other disabilities, disabled artists out there. And I would love to see that bridge in this conversation in the convention, because I think it's imperative. And because I knew I had to mold my body to fit the non-disabled gaze if I'm going to go audition. So at times I had to ignore my own access needs in order to accomplish a certain technique in dance. And that can be problematic for other bodies because we're sacrificing different little things in our bodies that could inherently hurt us in the future. And so those are things that really need to be discussed. I'm very fortunate that I'm part of this organization called DANC. They're a national organization in the US working to advocate for dancers. And we're talking just about this idea of like, how can we hold dance companies, choreographers accountable to making sure that their spaces are accessible, that their hiring practice are accessible and things like that. So these conversations are happening in other spaces. So it'll be interesting if that bridge can happen. And I think it's possible. End thought.
Lynn speaking. Thank you, Vanessa, for leaving us on a moment of hope.
Yeah. Oh, and this is Aubrey speaking, and I am going to close us out. And just one more thought from Eric. The one needle move I'd like to see from this gathering is some kind of larger recognition. Sorry, the chat is a little funny for me. Larger performing arts communities, bias and prejudice about disabled dancers hurts us all and restricts the potential of the whole field. I'm going to end it there. It was a longer quote. Thank you. And thank you to Lindsay. Thank you to Lynn. Thank you to Tanya for being on this team and being here to present what we've been doing so far. Thank you so much to Vanessa, Sonia, Eric, and Douglas for participating in the chat and on video. And thank you to our other audience members. And also thank you to Sharon for interpreting. And I know you have to head out. And finally, thank you to Susan. And I'm going to turn it over to Susan if there's an end that ArtSpark likes to hit home. That's it for Aubrey. Thank you all so much. So much gratitude.
Oh, thank you. Thanks everybody for joining us. And that was really interesting. I'm a non-dancer. I have danced in the past, but I'm more a visual artist, but it was really interesting hearing all of this. And I look forward to having you all back to keep us updated. I think that would be great. So anyway, this will be available on YouTube soon. We'll do a little bit of editing and get it up on the ArtSpark Texas YouTube channel. And if you're not following that, sign up to. And just a reminder that we are ArtSpark TX on the socials, and we're also on Facebook. And anyway, thanks again for joining us. And we'll let Lindsay sign us out.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I hope you have a lovely night. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks all.
Thank you to our ArtSpark Texas funders: Texas Commission on the Arts, St. David's Foundation, Cultural Arts City of Austin Economic Development, National Endowment for the Arts, Creative Forces, Austin Public Library, Donald D. Hamill Foundation.